I think you have done. So what I try to explain, and the market, hope you can see the screen also, and the market generate the optimal result, uh, which we measure using consumer surplus and producer surplus. And now, let's say whatever either natural or policy shock introduce the price changes. For example, let's say the price reduced by $1. Government said, let's say the $5 price. Now, with that you can see or you will able to measure now the consumer surplus, the producer surplus is the price reduction. Now, for example, this chart one, let's say price dropped up to $2. Now you can see the producer surplus reduce, drop down, and also the same thing happened to the consumer surplus also. You should be able to measure the gain, the total welfare, and policy level. Two things important. If such a things happen, let's say the kind of external shock or policy shock, bring back to the original or optimal level or even better type of policy introductions is important. So what as a policymaker can do to bring the social welfare the original level. Second type of questions, I'll give the exam, or maybe I'm interested. If market system create now this example, social welfare $135 million, the policymakers' job or role is to improve the social welfare. What type of stock can be introduced to improve the social welfare is the matter. At the same time, the policymakers has to think of improve the economy. It means now, for instance, let's say the original, the macroeconomic situation with the production possibility frontier and represent the production possibility frontier, and the social welfare, let's say this amount, the original level. Now, the first type of policies, what I mentioned, the social welfare, it changes the price due to any stock. It reduce. Somewhere here. Second level. What policies can be introduced to bring back to the original or even better? And the second part I'm interested in is the original keeping the policymakers' job used to be to improve the social welfare and the economy and the society into better, which means shift the in terms of social welfare, shift the products, this community indifference curve, somewhere W3, from W1. So that it alone improve the social welfare without shift in production possibility frontier. The one way, the other way, shift in the production possibility frontier and bring the social welfare to W3 level. I'm interested in what policies or what policy shocks you can introduce to bring such a level. Now, what haven't if you search our history, we try to bring the social welfare level W3 without shifting the production possibility frontier. We depend on donation loans and whatever kind of begging kind of thing, even the begging IMF like. So it does not support to shift mainly production possibility frontier. So in the exam questions, I'll focus on both. If you have any clarification, any questions, you can ask me. Yeah. Now, when we think of that kind of a stock, which means we should or we can introduce stock to change the equilibrium point. If I need to change, introduce stock, changing better, not the worst. But both way we can do. Now you have to think of what way we can, as a introduce policy stock, change this equilibrium outcome. And now the second point, if shocks happen, for instance, now let's say external shock like a war in Iraq happen, how that affect to the market and change the equilibrium outcome. And then if change actually, what policy shock we can introduce to bring back to the original level. Now, for instance, last few months you notice that the one of the key shock in the Iraq war, and it's affect to the both sides, supply and demand side both. And the policy currency depreciation also happen, and the react the currency depreciation, all the shocks, the external. So since we did not react properly, the currency dollar depreciate and it become worse. Now to react, the central bank introduce increase the policy rate. Now central bank already react. Now for instance, let's say this is the original one market, original demand and supply. Now what it happened, and the supply side, let's say, due to the Iraq war and those depreciation, and the supply reduce, and the demand also reduce, but little because of many goods we can't do that. And the equilibrium point change from A to it came to new point B. So A2 move to B. Now, if I connect to the macroeconomics, something happened to the all the sectors. Let's say original production possibility frontier. Assuming that original production possibility frontier, in case of no trade, then the maximum optimal where the society gets this W equal. Now, what happened is equilibrium change and the price increase between inflation rate also and the output also dropped down. So this happened to all the sectors and definitely production possibility frontier obviously shift back and the economic growth rate. That exactly happened. And Sri Lankan case is become worse because uh, the mainly this happened through imported item, mainly our imported compulsory items and depend on the other sectors important items and the currency depreciation. This become again double effect happen supply chain here. So now with those changes, continuously economic growth slow down and negative term. Now the central bank react, increase in policy rate. Now look at what happened. Now take a very simple sector, one sector, supply side. Now, though increase in inflation try to reduce the demand and try to keep the dollar depreciation constant level, but look at the partial or individual market, supply function depend on certain factors, what we discussed, one of the price and the price of other goods, or the price of input, and with the one input interest rate. Suppliers interest rate, when the interest rate increase, that have a negative relationship with the supply, which means the supply shift further this way. Now let's say original supply curve with the Iraq war, the first round, and then the dollar depreciation also the supply shift having happened. Now when the central bank react again, so the continuously supply curve is decreased. In the demand curve, or the, let's assume the original, now you can see what happened with the central bank react. Though it's temporary solution for dollar depreciation, sorry, rupee depreciation, the long term is not the best solution because they negatively affect the supply side. Country like Sri Lanka, the main bottleneck we have in supply side. So compared to the original production, let's say 100 billion, now all the changes and the equilibrium change, now production is 60 million. You can see the even the policy shock, what happened in the long term, the economy slow down and the GDP go down. And the policymakers to look at the other things when they introduce the policies, so react this thing. And when the interest rates increase and due to policy, one small thing happened, our savings increased. Savings increased. But now, again, the policies, if you have more savings in your account and the government tax on that also, people, they don't do that also. So you see, no policy mix and the policy work together. All try to fix the policies, isolate cases. Ultimately, the economy not better off, the worse off. This policy rate case also, you can see similar thing. Though, if you take isolate to address the currency depreciation, that's one. But it's not happening. And when the policy rate increase, the certain like housing and this, their demand also reduce because the people take loan and and increase the interest rate and the demand reduced. And with that, you can say that no kind of inflation will drop down, but the demand effect is less than the supply effect in Sri Lankan case. Because the people, most of the goods now due to economic crisis and things also, people demand mainly necessary good. We have left already in the market necessary good demand or market sector. This kind of policy shock is may not work, not happen, not impact on the demand side much, and because people can't nowadays, of course, most of the people eat 2 meals, can't maybe drop to 1 meal kind of a situation right now we have. I give this explanation, and the exam questions come like that. You should be able to pick up external or policy shock or the mitigation policy reactions also, and explain using demand and supply. Now here, this slide, what I try to say, one, the equilibrium case is whatever is the price increase or decrease. You must understand what things happen in the market. Now, in this case, particular case, let's say the price set above the equilibrium point. Then all of you know it creates a surplus situation, but this happened without the government imposing. The market itself react and bring back to the original equilibrium point. I will explain, I will show you. And is same the price below, and it creates a shortage because the price clearly and people demand more and so on. That's also same thing in the shortage case, like here, the surplus case in this case, price set above, you can see low demand and high supply and create the market. So the beauty of the market mechanism in kind of surplus, suppliers, now for example, is in rice. For example, let's take the wheat market. High productions come, automatically price goes down because the producers have to sell them and they drop the price. And let's imagine if you go to weekend market, some places, some cities, you have weekend, we call Sunday market or Saturday market. The afternoon after 5 or 4 o'clock, if more left with the suppliers or their sellers, they reduce the price. So the equilibrium price dropped down to the original situation. The market price reduced, and the opposite happened in case of shortage of market. The automatically price increase and settle down the equilibrium point. Yeah. Another thing also, now you can see how much the surplus and the price goes down, what happened, gradually how reduced. This graph you can see back to the original equilibrium level. Opposite in the shortage also same thing, you can see the price increase and sit down and the equilibrium point. And like I mentioned before, this equilibrium is not necessary or not happen always the same price and same quantity. Due to, like I mentioned, the shock, like the policy or external shock, any other shock, the demand and supply may change. Now, for this case, this example, you can see due to some reason, let's say introduce new technology, whatever reason, supply increase. When the supply only is increased, now you can see the market outcome move from A to B, and here is up. Price goes down, quantity increase. Now the exam, what I'm interested, if this kind of shock happen, you should be able to interpret the market outcome using demand and supply. And as a producer's point of view, or consumer's point of view, or policymaker's point of view, what's your policy, what is strategical reaction? You must figure it out. You must think. Now, for producer, for example, if you measure the producer plus, you can see the original producer plus. So as a policymaker, you should be able to measure what happened to the new producer plus after the shock, whether they increase or decrease new producer. You should be able to measure the exam also. And the same thing, the supply, consumer side plus improve or not. So that. And the other part also the policy reaction, what kind of policies you can introduce. Now, producer's point of view, for example, if you look at here, P3, let's say the wheat producer. This shock happened, introduced new technology. As a policymaker, you introduce new technology, the supply increase, and overall the production increase. That's better for the country. The consumers, for them, it's good. Price goes down, and the consumer surplus increase. But if you look at the producer side, farmers, for example, wheat farmers or rice farmers, individually, they are better off in that. Though overall producer surplus may increase as a result of new technology, though we always encourage new technology, the individual producers not better. Let's say farmer, you have a 2-acre land. Now, if the price goes down, your commodity goes down. Though your new technology, you produce more, but the market only the capture some amount kind of wheat or is necessary. In the new technology, increase the production entirely not absorbed by the market. But the market has the kind of necessary goods, some limitation and system. So ultimately, it depends on the price elasticity. We can see later on, individual farmers revenue goes down. In that case, if you can see, if you look at isolation, introduce new technology to the agriculture sector. Farmers may not like, their revenue goes down, and it's kind of a disadvantage. But that's not true. Why that's not true, and what is the solution? That's your task. Now, one technique the farmers use with together policymakers, they may work as a group like OPEC. In that way, they can get benefit. Or the policymakers also intervenes, can same time introduce this kind of a new technology. They have to think of kind of a value creation and value addition product. Then they create the market also, the demand curves also shift. Then the equilibrium come to the original or even the above better level come. But if you look at it, you see this is quite dynamic. The price increase, the consumer side maybe not better. So this the continuously happen. So the always policy reactions and the policy introduction strategies action is required. So otherwise, society, inflation, unrest, and things may happen. Now, this is another way. It's an original equilibrium point. So you should be able to measure the original producer plus consumer surplus. Now, this case shock happened to the demand side, and the demand increased. New equilibrium price and quantity, you can see high price, high quantity. In terms of producing more, GDP increase, production possibility frontier top outside and little bit. But other side, you can see the prices increase. The prices increase. Now, this case also kind of shock. For the exam case comes like that. They also used to be able to measure the original consumer surplus and the new consumer surplus as well as the producer surplus. And the policy reaction as a policymaker, you should be able to identify kind of innovative the policies or think of innovative policies to improve the outcome, improve the result. From the producer point of view also, your reaction you have to go the consumer side. Depend on the elasticity and the type of good also. So the exam question, three layers come basically. One is the interpretation or understanding, so the interpretation and the policies. When you mention the policies, individual consumer and producer side and individual decision, and the overall at the government side, the policy decision questions come like that. It's another way. Equilibrium change. The both demand and supply, the both side. Supply increase, the same time demand increase. Now you can see the outcome from here to here move. Result, you can see the quantity and the price. Think of whether the producer point of view is better off, or then what's your reaction? Consumer side and also policymaker side. Now, this is the one questions I gave sometime 2022, if I remember, 23. This kind of case I gave, and to the analysis, support of demand and supply curve. So they are, you should be able to draw demand and supply curves, the interpretation and outcome, and the policy. Now, this table shows some of this situation. Now, let's say here we have 4 cases, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can expand further. I will give you later on the expansion. And each case in these 4 cases, they have 3 scenarios or 3 situations. For example, if you take the first one, change in supply increase, which means supply curve shift outward. Same demand increase, which means the demand curve decrease. When this happens, you will notice the market equilibrium price always goes down. But in terms of quantity, it may go down, it may increase, it not. It's like the second is also 3 scenarios that you can see. Fourth one, fifth one also. Now I'll give you 5 minutes to take this, let's say, third case, only this row, to see these changes in situation. Go 3 different charts. Always things happen to supply and the demand like this. Three different charts, all to replace these 3 changes, and only this third case, this third one. The others after class you can do, and also the after the lectures, you should be able to expand this table to see other changes. For instance, supply decrease, but demand no change. Like that, you can expand the table and you should be able to draw all the. Now, this I'll give you 5 minutes. Do this exercise only the third case or third row. And if you finish, you can WhatsApp or you can. So here you can send to chat. Then we will continue after 5 minutes. Now time is 10:55, 11 o'clock. I'll be back. 11. Any questions? Any clarification? Okay. Look like no. Okay, you get